Okay, my outstanding friends, I know claiming that this is the deepest dive ever into mythology and the ancient texts, and it is, because nobody, as far as I can tell, since these ancient texts were written, has believed that any of this stuff was possible. That's the key. We have new eyes now. We have a whole new way of looking at things, and we have to start from the beginning. So that's what we're going to do. So stay tuned. Now, Velikovsky, my hero, and I wrote a book about him, was the one that really researched all of these events, and the critical time is approximately 1500 BC. That's when everything changed. All the religions changed. It went from the Egyptians into the Jewish escape from the Exodus, when they escaped from slavery in Egypt. And prior to that, and that was at the time of the Great Flood. It seems pretty obvious to me now that all of this is very, very, very well related. And all of these myths are quite true. And the reason they took all of the crazy stuff out is it's just too overwhelming for the average mind to even consider it. Without any serious, solid evidence, which we now have because of mud fossils, it's just ridiculous. It's just, you'd be absurd in your mind to even consider it. And that is what happened. And then the Age of Enlightenment, we just closed the door on everything. So we're opening that door again today, and I'm going to just keep plugging away at this until people understand, because this is not to overturn Christianity or any religion, the Muslims, anybody. I see all of that stuff as 100% valid, and I see Christ as the only way to survive this realm. And this realm is a realm where we're supposed to learn. And I have found that very, very, very few people care about learning. All they care about is some fabulous little tidbit that happened today, and then it's just gone. So I want to find out what eternity is going to be about. And all of these creatures that I'm going to talk about, the original texts, they were supposedly immortal. Well, where are they now? If they're immortal, that means they're not dead. They're not gone. What are they doing now? Are they interfering? Are they around? Are they just... This is what we're going to get into. But we have to start at the beginning. There is no going to the end and then just saying, okay, we're here now. No. We have to start from the beginning. Was this true? Was that true? Was this true? Well, is there any evidence to support that? Let's find out. Okay, my friends, I hope this will be enlightening, and it's a good exercise for me to go through this, and you will go through it with me. It's going to be another ramble. I do these now and then because it's so complicated that there's a lot to think about. But we're going to be going through all the Greek gods, from chaos, from Gaia, and all the things that they spoke of, which were the first written words about existence, other than if you take the Sumerian. That's another whole issue. But in our modern day era, let's say, they are the first ones, and they spoke of the Egyptians, which were, I believe, prior to them. That's what I'm saying. This is a ramble. Sometimes I'm going to say stuff that will be wrong. We all do that. But we're going to work through it, because I think I got a pretty good handle on it now. Now, Plato talked about Atlantis, and I believe I wrote this book, it was a paper. A friend of mine's writing books about my papers. I have nothing to do with the books. But this was from 2015 about Atlantis and the draining of the Sahara. The geologists now, they're just not really interested in the truth of things. It's more, they have to keep saying what they've been saying in order to stay employed, basically. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And this is not well received. It's not well received at all. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just to speak about it. just to speak about it freely. Don't worry, people are going to scream, yell at you, maybe, who knows. But, just, what do you think about this? That's all. You think this guy's crazy? Well, look at all these crazy things he's saying. How could he even be for real? And then let him respond to something like that, Treat me like a fool. I don't care. Just so long as somebody starts to look. If you look and you don't see it, well, good for you. And if you see it, better for you. All right, let's establish some dates. I'm going to be talking about some ancient Greek texts, which I believe they refer back to earlier texts, and we'll look into that. Again, it's a ramble. Now, they're talking about ancient Greek goes back to this Mycenaean culture of the second half of the second millennium BC. The second millennium BC is 2000 to 1000. That's the second millennium. And they're in the second half, which means 1500 and down. All right, so it's around 1500 BC. And it says Egyptian civilization much earlier than that. In the mid-second millennium BC, it was at its height. So Egyptian was really good, but it goes back much earlier than the Greek ones that actually started in the second half. Egyptian was at its height in the second half, and everything collapsed in the second half, and Greek started to come up. Egyptians was wiped out, and it was, I believe, from the Great Flood, because that's exactly what Velikovsky said. In the middle of 1500 BC, Velikovsky had the Great Flood. And this is what they're saying. Egyptian was at its height and wiped out, basically, and the Greek started. And it started slowly. The Greek didn't start quick. Now, you're also going to, I'm sure, ask about Sumeria. Now, it says, according to knowledge relating to the Orthodox view, Sumeria is the oldest civilization. And it's dated around 4000 BC, but they say, according to other experts, Egypt was the first truly organized civilization. Well, who knows? That's where we sort of lose. I'm looking for the date of the flood and what precipitated before that, and who was the gods, and how did all this thing come down? Again, it's a ramble. Let's start with the gods. Okay, this is pretty good, and this is from Wondershare Eddraw Max. Now, this is about the Greek gods, and this is their family tree. All right, so the Greek gods' family tree is a difficult thing to trace. Information was obtained from various sources, including mythology texts and paintings. All right, now we're going to go through. The earliest god in this family tree is Kronos. Now, he's represented as Saturn. All of these were planets. Zeus was Jupiter, where he became known as Saturn. But anyway, like I say, this is a ramble. Let's just start. All right, I'm just going to go right to Apollodorus. He says this: Sky was the first who ruled over the whole world. Sky was known as Uranus. And having wedded Earth, which was Gaia, he begat first 100-handed, as they are named, and who were unsurpassed in size and might, each having 100 hands and 50 heads. And then he bore him the Cyclopses, Argus, Stephens, Brontes, whom each had one eye and a forehead. But then Sky bound them up and cast them into Tartarus, and both the Cyclopses and the 100-handers. So he cast them into Tartarus, which is a gloomy place in Hades, as far distant from Earth as Earth is distant from the sky. Now, then he had more sex with the earth. And this is literally having sex with the earth, as far as I can determine. And again, they had children by earth. He had children by earth. The Titans. All right, so here we got the Titans. Ocean, Coius, Hyperion, Crius, Iapetus, and the youngest of all was Kronos. He was the one that took over. Now, he also had daughters, the Titanides. They were giant titans, but they were women. Tias, Rhea, Themis, Mesame, Phoebe, Diona, and Thea. Now, here's what happened, though. Earth was the mother of all of these offspring. Some of them were monsters, yes. The Cyclopses and the 100-handers, monsters, no question whatsoever. But Uranus, who was the father, said, no, I'm locking them inside of hell, basically Hades, and just keep them out of the way. I don't want them around here anymore. I don't like them. So they had more kids. So Earth had the Titans, as they were named. All right. So at this point, Earth was grieved at the destruction of her children because, he had them stuck in Hades, and which had been cast into Tartarus. So she persuaded the Titans to attack their father and gave Kronos, the youngest one, an adamantine sickle. And they talk about that as some kind of stone. Now, they all but Ocean, they all agreed, all the Titans, but Ocean said, no, I'm not going to do it. So they all agreed but Ocean to attack him, and Kronos cut off his father's genitals, right, and threw them into the sea, and from the drops of the flowing blood were born the Furies, which were Electro, and Megra, and having dethroned their father, the Titans dethroned their father, Uranus, they brought up their brethren who had been hurled down to Tartarus. So the ones that were captured in the earth, they brought them back up again and committed the sovereignty to Kronos. So now the youngest of the Titans was Kronos. And he was given charge of everything. He was the top guy now. But what happened with Kronos was he again bound and shut them up in Tartarus and wedded his sister Rhea. And since both earth and sky foretold him, so the earth and the sky said to him, they said he would be dethroned by his own son. So what did he do? He swallowed all the kids. He used to swallow his offspring at birth. As soon as she gave birth, he'd swallow them. And he kept them in his gut, so they couldn't come out and take over. So his firstborn, Hestia, he swallowed, then Demeter, and then Hera, and after them, Pluto and Poseidon. You see these names? Pluto, that's a planet. And Poseidon, that's the one that's got the spear in the ocean. Now, enraged at this, his wife, Rhea, who was also his sister, she hid out in Crete. She repaired to Crete. And she gave, where she was big with Zeus. So she's now pregnant with Zeus. And she's hiding out in Crete. And she brought him forth in a cave. So she gave birth in this cave as hiding out. She gave him to the Curates, to the nymphs Adrastia and Ida, the daughters of Melissus, to nurse him. So they nursed him in this cave in hiding so that he wouldn't be swallowed. Now, the nymphs fed the child on milk of Almalethea, and that's some kind of special goat or something. I'm not sure about that. And the Curates in arms guarded the babe in the cave. Every time he'd start screaming, they'd clashing their spears on their shields in order that Kronos might not hear the child's voice. But Rhea, so she was supposed to give Kronos the kid to eat. So Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and gave it to Kronos to swallow as if it were the newborn child. So Zeus is hiding in the cave. Rhea gives Kronos a stone to swallow in swaddling, and he just swallows it down. So he just ate it, and he said, okay, that's good, no problem, have a nice day. I'll be back, we'll have sex again, and we'll have another one, and I'll eat the next one. So when Zeus was full grown, he took Metis, who was the daughter of the ocean, to help him, and she gave Kronos a drug to swallow. So now, Zeus takes this woman who is the daughter of the ocean and gives Kronos a drug to make him throw up. It forced him to disgorge first the stone and then all the children which were in his gut that he had swallowed. And with their aid, Zeus waged war. So now he's got these troops coming up from Kronos' gut. Zeus waged war against Kronos and the Titans. All right, so Zeus is the god that actually was Jupiter. And Kronos actually was Saturn, I believe. And the Titans were all other planets as well. They fought for 10 years, and Earth prophesied victory to Zeus, who is Jupiter, if he should have as allies those who had been hurled down to Tartarus. So he had to make sure that those guys were on his side. So he slew the jailoress, which was keeping these guys in Tartarus, her name was Campi, and loosened their bonds. So he let them out of Tartarus. Now the Cyclopses, they seem to be pretty talented guys. They gave Zeus thunder. And that's how he killed Typhon. We'll get to that sooner or later. Now, he gave Zeus thunder and lightning and a thunderbolt. Now, they call it a great and mighty sword some other places, but he calls it a thunderbolt. Now, on Pluto, they bestowed a helmet, and on Poseidon, a trident. Armed with these weapons, the gods overcame the Titans, then shut them up in Tartarus. Don't forget, now these are all immortal things. You can't just kill them and they're gone. That's not the way I'm taking it. These are immortal, so they got to lock them away somewhere. So they shut them up in Tartarus and appointed the 100-handers to guard them as their guards. But they themselves cast lots for the sovereignty. And to Zeus was allotted the dominion of the sky, to Poseidon the dominion of the sea, Pluto the dominion in Hades. Now, to the Titans were born offspring. To Ocean and Tias were born Oceanides. And there's the names of them. I'm not going to get into all of the little things, but, you know, dawn, sun, and moon, these were born. These were offspring. Iapetus in Asia was born Atlas, who was holding up the mountains, who has the sky on his shoulders, and Prometheus. And Prometheus was supposedly the father of Noah. In the Greek, he was the father of Deucalion, who was Noah. All right, so you got to know the sort of the cross words, who was what in Greek versus Roman, basically. Now, anyway, Iapetus in Asia was born Atlas. His sky was on his shoulders. Prometheus and Ephemetus and Meotius, he whom Zeus in the battle with the Titans smote. He killed Zeus. They killed all of the Titans with thunderbolts and hurled them down to Tartarus. Now, to Kronos was born the Centaur, Dawn, born winds and stars. All right, this looks like it's the beginning of the solar system. Zeus caused oaths to be sworn by the water Styx. Now, this is where Zeus was the god of sex. And he was the first god to rule over the God that we know of. Before that, it was just kind of crazy stuff, I got to be honest with you. Well, it's crazy even after that, but Zeus was the one that killed all of the Titans and all of those things and got rid of all of that stuff. And then he's the one, I believe, and sworn these oaths were the 200 so that they could come down and have children and have sex. All right, so Zeus caused oaths to be sworn by the water of Styx, which flows from a rock in Hades, bestowing this honor on her because she and her children had fought on his side against the Titans. Hold on one second. Now this is just lineage, so let's just get past that. Now Zeus wedded Hera, and he begat Hebe. This is an Ares, but he had intercourse with many women, both mortals and immortals. And he was the god. He was the god of this region. And we know Satan was the one that said, let's go down and have sex with all these women. And that's what he did. So I have to take it that Zeus was the one they were talking about. Sataniel, Satan, whoever you want to call him. And he was known as Zeus, and also as the planet Jupiter. And as I've shown you, if you've been watching, Jupiter literally gave birth to the planet Venus, which smote Earth and killed all of the giants that Zeus created by having sex with all the mortals and immortals. That's the way I'm looking at it. Now, I could be wrong, but it seems to be pretty obvious to me. All right, this is something I really never really paid attention to. I was kind of shocked. Saturn appears to be the god that was in charge. He was a god in ancient Roman religion, Greek, same thing. A character in Roman mythology. He was described as a god of time, generation, dissolution, abundance, wealth, agriculture, periodic renewal, and liberation. Now, listen to this carefully. Saturn's mythological reign was depicted as the Golden Age. All right, the Golden Age, an abundance and peace. After the Roman conquest of Greece, he was conflated with the Greek god Titan Kronos. So Saturn is Kronos. And Kronos was the one that was dethroned by Zeus. All right, he was supposedly, hold on a second. All right, I think I got it here. Saturn is Kronos. All right, he was overthrown by Zeus. Now, Kronos originally overthrew his father, Uranus, which was the god of who was mated to the earth. And Kronos cut his testicles off, and he became the new god. All right, and he was at the time of the Golden Age, abundance and peace, and he was Kronos. So Saturn is Kronos, and they're all planets. And he had Jupiter. Saturn's consort was his sister Ops, with whom he had Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, Juno, Ceres, and Vesta. These are like all planets and moons, and they're all gods. So Saturn ruled over the Golden Age, and the Golden Age was when nobody had to work. It was abundance. Everything was free, and they have a good time. It was nice. But I don't think they were having sex with the human beings at this time. Zeus was the one that overthrew Kronos and became, because Kronos was eating all the children. Remember that now. He would eat all the kids. And then he was given some kind of a drug to make him throw all of them up. And Zeus actually took over at that point. All right, Kronos is now gone, and Zeus is in control. And Zeus was the sexual god. He was having sex with literally everybody. All right, so here it is here. Kronos was the one that took over from Uranus. When Uranus came to have sex with Earth, he cut his testicles off. Now, he gave birth to all of these, and he ate all of them except Zeus. So now he's got all of them eaten. And Zeus now comes over and takes over Kronos is gone, and the new bloodline is from Zeus. And this all appears to come down from Zeus. All right, this is from Edraw Mac's community. And so let's get back to the text. Now don't forget, this looks to me like Zeus was the one that said, let's go down and have sex with all the people on Earth. Because here's what it is. Hera gave birth to Hephaestus without intercourse with the other sex. They were doing a lot of crazy things. According to Homer, he was one of her children by Zeus. Zeus was after all the women. And Zeus had intercourse with Metis, who turned into many shapes in order to avoid his embraces. When she was with child, Zeus, taking time by the forelock, swallowed her, because Earth said that after giving birth to the maiden whom was then in her womb, Metis would bear a son who should be the Lord of heaven. It was all about accession, and they all wanted to stay in charge. Now, from fear of that, Zeus swallowed her. And when the time came for the birth to take place, Prometheus, or others say Hephaestus, smote the head of Zeus with an axe, and Athena, fully armed, leaped up from the top of his head at the river Triton. Now see, this is where I don't see that as being correct. I see it as what other texts say, that Zeus literally gave birth to Venus, which was a fiery comet at that time. Now, when they're talking about hitting him in the head with an axe and Athena popped out fully armed, I'm not sure about that, because I do know that Zeus, who is Jupiter, has a vagina, and it looks like it might be ready to give birth again. And I've shown this many, many, many times. If you haven't seen it, you go back and find it. It's in there. Now, this goes on, but Zeus was after all of them, like Asteria. Of the daughters of Coos, Asteria, in the likeness of a quail, flung herself into the sea in order to escape the amorous advances of Zeus. He was after all the women. Now Artemis devoted herself to chase and remained a maid, but Apollo learned the art of prophecy from Pan and the son of Zeus and Hybris, and came to Delphi. It's just crazy. Everything is killing and raping. And what's this one here? Not long afterwards, he slew Typhoeus, who was a son of Zeus and Eler, daughter of Oromysis. For her, after he had debauched her, Zeus hid under the earth for fear of Hera, which is his wife, and brought forth to the light the son Tychus of monstrous size, whom she had borne in her womb. When Latona came to Pythio, Titus beheld her, and overpowered by lust, drew her to him. But she called her children to her aid, and they shot him down with their arrows. He is punished even after death, for vultures eat his heart in Hades. I don't know what to say. I can't go through all this stuff. It's just crazy. And it's just, all it is killing and self-interest for each one of these people. It's just all they wanted was for their own self-interest against everybody else. If somebody's going to overtake me, but they could prophesize back then, so you would have to take it as real. They say this guy's going to kill you and take your throne and whatever. It depends on how you feel about that. But they could prophesy. So if they prophesied something, they took it as serious. And then they would kill each other, but Orion was killed, as some say, for challenging Artemis. And I mean, it goes on and on. Poseidon wedded somebody's daughter to Ocean. Pluto fell in love with Persephone, but the help of Zeus carried her off secretly. It goes on and on and on. When Zeus ordered Pluto to send up the maid, Pluto gave her a seed of pomegranate to eat. I don't know. Such is the legend of Demeter. The earth, vexed on account of the Titans, brought forth the giants to whom she had by the sky. All right, so now the giants come. These were matchless in their bulk and their bodies, and invincible in their might. Terrible of aspect did they appear, long locks drooping from their head and chin, with the scales of dragons for feet. They were born, as some say, in Phlegria, but according to others in Pallene, and they darted rocks and burning oaks at the sky. They were trying to attack the sky, surpassing all the less. It's just crazy. But the reason I take this as serious is 1.6.3, which we're coming up on right now. This was all about the battle between the giants and the gods, right? And Earth was the mother of all of these giants, but Zeus killed them all. Right? Zeus was the god, one of the gods, and he killed all the giants. It gets a little bit confusing why there's a differentiation here, but there is. So as it says, they were killing everybody. In the battle, Porphyrion attacked Hercules and Hera. Nevertheless, Zeus inspired him with lust for Hera, and when he tore her robes and would have forced her to have sex, apparently, she called for help. Zeus smote him with a thunderbolt, and Hercules shot him dead with an arrow. As for the other giants, this one was shot dead by Apollo with an arrow in his left eye, and by Hercules in his right eye. And it's just, they all killed each other, and it gets down to the very end, and it says, they were Hermes, wearing the helmet of Hades, slew Hephaestus in the fight, and Artemis slew Gratian, and the Fates, fighting with brazier clubs, killed Argeus and Thoas. The other giants Zeus smote and destroyed with thunderbolts, and all of them, so all of the giants are being killed, and Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. So that's the end of the giants. Now, those were the children of Earth. So Earth was pissed off. It says, when the gods, Zeus and his buddies, had overcome the giants, Earth was more enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon. That's the giant dragon that I found in the desert. Now, he was a beast. He was a hybrid between man and beast. In size and strength, he surpassed all the offspring of Earth. He was bigger than anything that was ever made. As far as the thighs, he was of human shape, and of such prodigious bulk, he outtopped all the mountains. Now remember, the important thing is all they talk about is human and beast, but it was only his thighs, just his thighs, were of human shape. Just his thighs, nothing else. The rest was such prodigious bulk, he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. The thing was 1,200 miles long. One of his hands reached out to the west and the other to the east, and from them projected 100 dragons' heads, which I have not found, but I read somewhere that Zeus had burnt off all the heads and then cut his throat. Typhon. Now, from the thighs downward, the only thing of human was thighs, he had huge coils of vipers, which when drawn out reached to his very head and emitted a loud hissing. His body was all winged and unkempt, which it is. Hair streamed on the wind from his head and cheeks. Fire flashed from his eyes, which it does. Such and so great was Typhon, when hurling kindled rocks, he made for the very heavens with hissing and shouts. So he's attacking the heavens to try to kill the gods for his mother, Earth. spouting a great jet of fire from his mouth, yes. Now, what happened? When the gods saw him coming, they were scared. They were literally scared. They made for Egypt in flight, wherever Egypt is, I don't know. And being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals. Now, Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance with thunderbolts and struck him down. Now it gets very confusing after that. And I don't necessarily agree with what I'm seeing because I can see Typhon in the desert. All right, I've been talking about this for many years. This dragon is attacking that fish. And this dragon was the one we were just reading about, Typhon. He's 1,200 miles long. And he's spitting out all of this black stuff at the fish down below. Let's just take a wide perspective. There's the fish. There's his fin. Comes back down here. The tail would go around here. It's been a little scruffed up over here, some stuff running over it. All right. And I believe this is his eye. I don't know what that is, to be perfectly honest with you, but the scales go this way. So he would be going that direction, and the tail runs back off this way. Now, remember they said the gods changed themselves into animals to try to get away. Well, that's an animal. And this is Typhon, and he is spitting out all that noxious fire and so forth against this fish who was one of the gods trying to hide out. And Typhon is here in the desert. So, you know, after the text I read you, there's some other texts very hard for me to understand because they don't line up with this. Here it is right here. It's like at this point he was cut and dead, and here he is in the desert. And here's his red flaring eye. You see it? That's his red eye coming back. These are his beards right here. These two are here. This thing's changing colors, kind of funny. You gotta get right down close before you get any good colors. This is all the stuff he was spitting out. You see this nasty stuff? And that he spit out at the fish. So now we come down to the fish, which is right here. So the dragon spit it out. Now, his dragon throat runs all the way down. This is just runoff from his body. Let's haul him back in here. There's his head, all his unkempt hair and all that stuff flying all over the place. Now, they said he had 50 dragon's heads. I've looked around. I can't find them. I can't say that they're not here. But I also saw somewhere that said holy smokes, I can't even think of his name. Zeus cut off 50 heads. Cut them off with his great and mighty sword. I can't see him laying around, but there is all kind of crazy looking stuff laying around. You know, that's not just hills and valleys. Could this have been one of the burnt off heads? I don't know. There's things all over the place here that are just hard to understand. But anyways, Typhon runs all the way across, all the way over to here. And there's just scales on the end here. So this is why I put some faith in these texts about, you know, all the early Greek texts. I mean, it's crazy sounding, but there is a vagina on Jupiter. And they said, you know, Velikovsky did the research everywhere in the world, and he found they had the same story, 1500 BC, which is the middle of the 2nd century BC, which is exactly what they're talking about, the fall of Egypt and this beginning of the Greco-Roman era. And of course there was Sumeria prior to that. How sophisticated they were, I think, well, I have no idea. So I'm not even going to comment on that. But this was the transition from the Great Flood to the Greek and the Roman era. Now, prior to the Great Flood in the Egyptians, they were using these giant body parts, like at Baalbek and all that, and they had giants being able to move them because they had miles-tall giants. I have a hair follicle here from a guy that would have been a mile tall, at least. And I show this 100 times as well. So that's how they built all these gigantic structures and crazy things, even on the sides of mountains and everything. That guy could stand up a mile tall. He could easily do that and quite easily move around these big, huge things like at Baalbek. A mile tall guy, and that wasn't even as tall as they got. Enoch said they were 2.5 miles tall. All right, 3,000 ells, that's 2.5 miles. So virtually any construction would be simple for them. Now, in addition to that, these gigantic giants, they had Hephaestus, and they had the Cyclopses, and the things that they could make were just unbelievable. These weapons and tools, and a shield of invincibleness, and and they can make people become transparent and visible. All of these special things they were capable of doing. So I can see no problem with them doing everything that we have seen that nobody can explain. All right, to me, this is where the transition happened, where the Great Flood was. Prometheus, who gave man fire and molded man. Hold on, I think it says Prometheus molded men out of water and earth. And he also gave him fire, which Zeus was not happy about. He nailed him on a mountain for many years and had an eagle swoop in every day and eat his liver. And then finally Hercules released him. Now listen to this. Prometheus had a son called Deucalion, who was Noah. All right, so the father of man had a son called Deucalion, who was Noah. And Noah reigned in the region about Pythia, and he married Pyrrha, the daughter of Themyscus and Pandora, whose Pandora was supposedly the first woman fashioned by the gods as a punishment for man. And when Zeus would have destroyed the men of the Bronze Age, which by the impact of Venus into our atmosphere, Deucalion, who was Noah, by the advice of Prometheus, which is his father, he said, construct a chest. A chest. Having stored the chest with provisions, he embarked in it with Pyrrha. And then Zeus, pouring heavy rain from heaven, flooded the greater part of Greece, so all men were destroyed except a few who fled to the high mountains in the neighborhood. It was then that the mountains in Thessaly parted, and all the world outside, the whole world, was overwhelmed. But Deucalion, floating in a chest over the sea for 9 days and as many nights, drifted to Parnassus, and there, when the rain ceased, he landed and sacrificed to Zeus, who he called the god of escape. Zeus sent Hermes to him and allowed him to choose what he would, and he chose to get men. And at the bidding of Zeus, he took up stones and threw them over his head, and the stones which Deucalion, Noah, threw became men. The stones which Pyrrha threw became women. Hence, people were called metaphorically a stone. And Deucalion had children with Pyrrha and so forth, and then that starts a whole new lineage, basically. Now, I believe all this goes into the parting of the sea and the Exodus and all that stuff happened approximately at this same time, in the middle of the 2nd century BC. Approximately 1500 BC, somewhere in that area. Okay, I've been really digging deep into this, all of the ancient stories, and there was, as far as I'm seeing it right now, there was basically 3 intervals. And the first one was where the Titans and all of these giant creatures were, which literally made up the earth and had little tiny tendons like this that are just so big that nobody can understand how they could have possibly moved these. Well, I have shown that I have giants right here on my own property, which would be about a mile tall. It's a hair follicle from a giant. And I show this in all these videos. This is a hair follicle from a giant. It's 2 inches wide, and that is 1,000 times larger than our hair follicles. Now, if you had 1,000 times larger person, that's approximately a mile tall. And they were even taller than that, twice as tall or more. They could easily move that. We'll just pick it up and put it over here, put it over here, put it over here, put it. They do this all day long. Now, they were working with these from before the flood. This stuff here that we're seeing laying around after the flood there's no more giants to move them around, so they're just laying around. But before that, they were putting them here, putting them there, making buildings and doing all kinds of things. They were building on the side of mountains. They could stand up a mile tall and put little rocks into the mountains. They did things that nobody can possibly explain today because of how big they were. But then they were gone. After that, there was more giants when the sons of God went into the daughters of man. But they were nowhere near as tall as the original giants. But those giants were up to 2 miles tall, and they took these original giant body parts and made buildings out of them, and all kinds of things. Petra is nothing more than just a big ball of muscle, and they carved into an artery. It is what it is, and until we can accept, you don't even have to accept it. You just have to look. If it doesn't work for you, that's just up to you. But until you look, then you're just part of the problem. And I have this all day long. I hear this. Well, I know you said that. I know you said that. Well, did you take a look at it? I don't have to look at it. It's crazy. It's not crazy until you don't look at it. It's crazy you don't look at it. And that's the problem I'm running into. It's very frustrating because, a lot of people I love, they won't look at it. They have no interest whatsoever. I think they think I'm a crazy person. But what can I do? I'm not going to give up on this just because I've lost a lot of people, my friends and my family, and everything. They think I'm insane. But they're so brainwashed to believe the nonsense. Oh, there was a scientist. The guy went to Yale. He went to Harvard. No, all he did was go there to be indoctrinated, to learn how to destroy your mind. That's what's happening right now in the academia. It's the poison ivy league. They are not there to help you, my friends. They are there to suck the money out of you and put you under their thumb. And this was also written about in the ancient texts. They said that the teachers will, well, hold on. All right, here's right here. False teachers and their destruction. There were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They secretly introduce destructive heresy. There is no God, there's no Jesus, you're just crazy people. Even denying the sovereign Lord, Jesus Christ, who bought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. He bought them with his own life. He said, you follow what I'm saying, or you're not going to make it. Many will follow their depraved conduct. So many are going to follow their teachers and say, you tell me what to say, and I'll say what you tell me, and then I will be destroyed just as you will be destroyed. They will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. They can't stand the truth. They hate the truth. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you right now with fabricated stories. They're just making everything up. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them. Their destruction has not been sleeping. That's not good. That doesn't sound good for teachers. They understand the teachers. It's all about teachers. They hate them. God hates the teachers. That's the way I see it. All right? There will come a time they will not endure sound doctrine. They won't listen to the truth. According to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables, which are just nonsense that we're hearing today. Now, I take everything. I go through all of them. This is about the eyes to see and the ears to hear and all that, and they just don't have it anymore. They forgot all the truth. This is about the Muslim faith. Adam and angels, everyone was 90 feet tall. See, Allah, the exalted and glorious, created Adam in his own image with his length of 60 cubits. That's 90 feet. He created him, told him to greet that group. There was a party of angels sitting there. Listen to the response that they give him, for it would form his greetings and to all springs. He then went and said, peace, peace be upon you. That is no more. That is gone. Peace. I will kill you if you don't say what I say, is what it is now. He was saying, peace be on you. The angel said, peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah. And they made an addition of mercy of Allah. So we need mercy, because nobody here, I don't think anybody's sinless. And I am one of the worst sinners, and it's destroying my feelings. It's making me feel very bad, let me put it that way, about things that I did in my younger days before I understood any of this. How important it is to be sinless. This is going to be a deep dive. We're going to get real deep into this, but you got to teach your kids right. You got to teach them right from the beginning, and let them understand that. Don't just accept all of this nonsense they've been taught. Learn for themselves. Pay attention to the truth of what they see, not be put under anybody's thumb. And that's what's happened right now. We're all under the thumb of academia. You may not realize, you think, oh, they're there to help us. No, that's not the case whatsoever. Not even in the slightest bit. They are there to control you, to control society. And as far as I'm concerned, there are creatures that were immortal, and I think they're controlling academia. I think that's where they live now, behind those ivy walls. I can't say, they claim to know God, but they're detestable. They claim to know God, but by their actions they deny him. That's academia. They're detestable, disobedient, unfit for doing anything good. There's another one. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Well, God is not real happy right at the moment. So like I say, this is shocking. It's one of those things. But if you don't pay attention, it's not going to go good for you, I don't think. All right, let me just throw in a couple more, and then we're going to close it up for today. But this is not going to go away. I'm going to anyway, explore this until there is no more exploration that can be done. This is my calling right now. Brothers, consider the time of your calling. Not many of you were wise by human standards. They could think I'm an idiot. Not many were powerful. I'm one of the weakest people on the planet. Not many were noble of birth. I'm certainly not noble. God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, and that's what I'm trying to do. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong, and boy, that's a chore, I'm going to tell you that. He chose the lowly and despised things of the world, which is me, and the things that are not, which is me, to nullify the things that are, which is them. All right, and everything in here is about stones. Jesus said when they said to him, keep your disciples quiet, just stop them from talking. He says, if I tell them to stop talking, the stones will stand up and scream at you. And they did. That's called Mudfossils. All of this stuff, if the world hates you, which is Jesus is saying, if the world hates you, keep in mind it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. They just say, oh yeah, come on, Roger, you just say the same things we say and you'll be super. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. There's a lot to go through, my friends. I love you. Let's just keep it going and be careful about your itching ears, because they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from truth and be turned aside to fables. We live in just a fantasy world right now, and that is 100% due to academia. If you don't say what they tell you to say, they'll destroy your life. And they can do it to the other teachers, what they call their peers, and they can do it to you as the students. They can make everybody think that you're an idiot because you won't repeat the nonsense that they're telling you to repeat. That never worked for me. I had to go into my own business because virtually everything I ever heard from anybody was not true, and they could not accept any discussion about the truth. And that's what's happened today. Same thing. I am very, very well suppressed, trust me. You get all these other channels, they put on some little flicky thing and they get 2 million hits. I put on some of the most important things in our history. I get a couple thousand hits, and that's it, done. So this is what we're up against, and I'm not going to let it go. So do what you think is right, and I'm going to do what I think is right. All right, I love you all.